On December 5, 1872, sailors approaching the Mary Celeste felt the first unease of seeing a ship behave as if someone were steering her. Nobody was at the wheel. All 10 people aboard were gone, yet the ship kept sailing. 2 men from the De Gratia rowed across the rough water. They climbed onto the Mary Celeste's deck and called out. No captain answered. No sailor emerged. Somewhere above them, loose canvas struck the rigging. Captain Benjamin Briggs had vanished with his wife Sarah and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia. All 7 crewmen were gone too. The passengers and crew's belongings remained, along with food, water, and most of the valuable cargo. Only the small boat, the ship's papers, and Briggs' navigation instruments were missing. Those absences looked consistent with an organized evacuation. But Briggs was an experienced captain. Why would he lead his family and crew into an open boat while their ship was still afloat? To understand Briggs's choice, return to New York 28 days earlier. There, 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol were packed into the Mary Celeste for Genoa. Briggs trusted the voyage enough to bring his wife and small daughter aboard. Briggs was respected and experienced. His school-age son remained ashore, while Sarah and Sophia sailed with him. 7 crewmen sailed with them. 9 other lives would answer to every decision Briggs made at sea. For him, the voyage carried more than cargo. It carried nearly his entire household. On November 7, the ship left New York. For nearly 2 weeks, heavy weather slowed her passage toward the Azores and forced the crew to shorten sail. The surviving records show no panic or conflict, only a working ship meeting difficult seas, day after day, far from help. Between storms came ordinary shipboard hours. Watches changed, rigging was checked. A family lived inside a working cargo vessel. Near the Azores, ordinary entries gave way to one final position. On November 24, rough weather struck again. By the following morning, the ship had reached the Azores and was within sight of Santa Maria Island. At 8 in the morning on November 25, someone recorded the ship's position on the log slate. It is the last documented trace of the 10 people aboard. After that entry, the record stops. 10 days later, the boarding party found clear signs of trouble. Some sails remained set. Other sails and rigging were damaged. 2 cargo hatches had been moved onto the deck. The ship had taken on water, but she was not sinking. That contradiction would shape every theory that followed. Even so, 3 sailors later navigated the vessel hundreds of miles to Gibraltar. That journey proved the abandoned ship could survive the sea. It did not prove that Captain Briggs knew she was safe when everyone left. Near one of the ship's 2 pumps, the boarders found a sounding rod, a tool used to measure water inside the hull. The pump itself had been partly taken apart. Someone had been trying to understand the water below. The packed hold kept Briggs from seeing the water directly, and the dismantled pump may no longer have given him a trustworthy measurement. He could not reliably know whether the vessel was leaking faster than his crew could save her. 9 porous red oak barrels were empty, making leakage possible, not proving an explosion. Vapor may have produced a smell or disturbing noise. The alcohol cargo gave Briggs one more danger he could not see or measure. In Gibraltar, the salvage court tested whether violence could explain the empty ship. Investigators searched the vessel for proof of piracy, mutiny, or murder. Attackers would have taken 10 people, while leaving a valuable, seaworthy prize behind. The cargo remained. No clear evidence established that a fight had occurred. Investigators examined a sword in the captain's cabin, but it did not establish murder. Suspicion was not proof, and the inquiry could not turn its violent theory into fact. The court also considered an insurance conspiracy, but proved no plot. It still could not explain why Briggs would deliberately endanger his wife, daughter, and crew. Later stories filled the silence with murder, piracy, and signs of a struggle. Those inventions were vivid, but they could not explain the evidence left aboard: the missing boat, the missing papers, and the navigation tools taken with them. Strip those stories away, and the evidence favors evacuation over attack. The pump suggested trouble aboard. Nearby land made escape seem possible. But what made leaving feel necessary? With the pump fouled and the water hidden, Briggs had to decide whether the ship was sinking. Debris may explain the pump failure, but the pump alone does not explain why all 10 people left. His navigation may also have been wrong. Historical weather and the ship's logs suggest Briggs could have been about 120 miles from where he believed. Santa Maria appeared later than expected, giving him reason to doubt both his position and his judgment of the voyage. No single problem explains the evacuation, but a late landfall, hidden water, leaking cargo, and a damaged pump could reinforce one another. Several survivable problems might look fatal when they arrive together. Imagine the decision only as far as the evidence allows. Santa Maria is visible. The pump cannot give a trustworthy answer. Water may be rising unseen beneath 1,701 barrels. Briggs has 7 sailors to protect, and his wife and small daughter. Waiting for certainty may itself feel like a decision. Staying aboard could be fatal if the ship were sinking or if fumes were building below. Leaving could be fatal if the weather worsened. But with land in sight, the small boat might have seemed like a temporary refuge rather than a final escape. The missing papers and navigation instruments show preparation to navigate. They do not reveal whether Briggs first meant to row toward land or wait beside the ship. Either plan required everyone to enter the small boat. In one possible sequence, the boat followed behind on a rope while the crew waited for the danger to pass. That would keep them near the stronger vessel. It would also place every life aboard a tiny craft at the mercy of one line. If that rope parted, the separation could happen in seconds. The light boat would slow in the waves. The larger ship, with sails still set, would move ahead. 10 people could watch their only shelter pull beyond reach. No swimmer and no oar could match a brigantine carried by wind. If the boat separated, its people may have rowed toward Santa Maria and been overwhelmed before reaching it. Briggs, Sarah, Sophia, and the 7 sailors left no verified trace. No wreckage, body, or survivor revealed what happened. Meanwhile, the Mary Celeste kept moving. Every gust filled the sails that remained. Every wave widened the distance from the small boat that may have been trying to follow. With nobody at the wheel, their only shelter traveled hundreds of miles beyond reach. 10 days later, the boarders could not see the conditions Briggs had seen. Whatever frightened him was gone. They found the ship after the danger had passed, or after a danger that had never existed. The boarders knew the ship had survived. Briggs could only judge whether she was about to survive. Those are not the same decision. That makes the strongest explanation credible, not solved. Records confirm some links and only suggest others. No record reveals what happened to the boat after it left the ship. The court eventually found no proof of foul play. The Mary Celeste returned to service. The 10 people who had sailed from New York did not return. Their families received no final message, confirmed wreckage, or place to mark where the voyage had ended. Their absence became entertainment. Pirates, monsters, murderers, and curses. But the documented story needs none of them. Incomplete information may have forced a responsible captain to choose for the lives of his family and crew. The first sailors who boarded the empty vessel heard only canvas, water, and wood. They could see that everyone had left. They could not know what had made leaving seem safer than staying. More than a century later, The Mary Celeste leaves you with the decision no record can recover. When other lives depend on you, and neither choice is safe, what would make you leave the ship beneath your feet? Next, D.B. Cooper, the man who vanished somewhere between an airplane and the ground.